Back from vacation, gonna go through game week 42 for you. I have no voice, but we'll do our best to stay close to the microphone today. Game week 42 locks in a couple hours. Let's get you started. So before I get started today, I did update my sheet. I took out all the game logs before February 1st. So this is basically the last 6 weeks worth of action that we're taking into account here. Just felt like we had a lot of guys who played really well early in the season who have either hit a wall, it was throwing off their numbers a little bit. So this is probably a little more accurate way to get a good projection. All right, starting in that microcap tier, I have Kessler Edwards in Sacramento as a 2. He's been getting an average of about 11 minutes a night the last couple of games. I don't know if I trust this to stick around. He's had periods during the season where he sometimes doesn't play at all, so very high risk here. But if you really need a 2, he could get you somewhere in the mid-teens. Orlando Robinson in Miami, Bam Adebayo missed the last game. Robinson only played 13 minutes, which is a little distressing. I was hoping he'd get more in that 20 to 30 range. Bam still questionable over the weekend here, at least for Friday's game to start with. At 13 minutes, he doesn't give you a whole lot. You probably need a little more, but at a 3, if you need somebody to fit in the end of your lineups, he might be in play. 2 games for the Heat this weekend. Max Christie in LA is getting a couple more minutes again. LA is really beat up on the wings. Well, they're beat up all over the place, to be honest. 14 minutes on average over the last couple. I think he continues to get some run. Only a 4 L10. He can get you close to 20 on a good night. And 2 games for the Lakers this weekend. Here's one I really like. Luka Garza in Minnesota. Gobert's been out. Towns obviously out. Now Naz Reid's been out. So all their big men, they've had to turn to Garza. He's been playing more in the 20s for minutes, averaging about 15 over the last 3, but recently playing in that 22 to 25 range. If he can get 22 to 25, I think you're in really good shape. Even with 15 minutes, I think he can get you in the low 20s and 2 games for Minnesota, and he's only a 5 L10, so a good guy to fit in the end of your lineups. Anthony Gill with Washington banged up and playing a little more. I don't trust this one to stick around, though. He's just not a very good player. But at 0.91, not awful either. If you want to take a chance on him, he'll be really cheap. Brandon Boston in LA for the Clippers. They've had some injuries. Norman Powell out. Terrence Mann got hurt in practice. They've turned to Bones Highland, but he's kind of losing favor already. I see his minutes going down. Boston's played a little more lately, so they're kind of seeing what they have with him, I think. 0.69 a minute since February 1st, so not great. 5 L10, 2 games this weekend, so if you want to take a chance at him, he'll be pretty cheap. Patty Mills signed with Miami after being cut loose by Atlanta, and he's actually playing a lot because Tyler Hero's out, Josh Richardson's out, everybody's out in Miami. 7 L10, he's got a top end of about 20, 2 games for the Heat. Troy Brown may get a little more run coming up here. Detroit's got a lot of players out as well. Mude, one of the rookies who they've been trying to take a look at, fractured his ankle, so he's going to be out this game for the foreseeable future. I just think they don't have anybody left, so Troy Brown may actually get more than 12 minutes. He may get up to like 20. Unproductive, but an option at least with 2 games. Another Piston, Chimezie Metu. I didn't even know he was on the team until I started prepping for this week, but he got over 20 minutes last game, and with all their injuries and an 8 L10, he may be worth a look. 2 games for Detroit. At 9, we have Vit Krejci in Atlanta. This guy's been playing huge minutes. Not a good player. 0.57 points per minute. 9 L10 though. If you want to take a crack at him, I think with this many minutes, you might get a big performance. You never know. So definitely comes with a lot of risk, though. I don't think he's very good. Poku's been playing a little bit. 22 minutes last game. L10 still have just 10. He'll get you something. Hornets only have 1 game. Everybody in this tier with a low ask under $4. So I would go Garza. Would be my top pick. Find a way to work him in. I think he's definitely going to get some minutes over the weekend and a couple cracks at it with the Wolves having 2 games. Moving into the mid caps, there are quite a few to consider, so I'm going to go fairly quickly. DeLon Wright in Miami, 11 L10, 2 games for the Heat. He can get you mid-20s. Ochai getting over 30 minutes recently, 12 L10. That's enough minutes for him to be relevant despite his bad point per minute. Chris Duarte is getting Kevin Huerter minutes in Sacramento, so he's been getting about 19. 13 L10. He's fairly relevant when he plays. 1.04 points a minute's a little better. He's been doing that since February 1st. Consider him, but only 1 game for Sacramento. Marcus Sasser is going to have to play for Detroit. 20 minutes on average since February 1st, but that should be going up with all the injuries they have. Only a 13 L10. Project him in the high 20s as well. 2 for Detroit. Mo Bamba in Philly. 22 minutes recently, so up a little bit. He can get you high 20s for sure. 2 games for Philadelphia. Lonnie Walker hasn't been playing much. Hopefully he starts to get a few more minutes again. L10 down to 13. This guy can certainly explode if they put him on the floor, but who knows what they do. They're out of it, but still playing starters. So Marcus Morris signed on with Cleveland. He's been getting about 18 minutes recently with Evan Mobley out. That puts you in the low 20s. 2 games for Cleveland. Monte Morris, Minnesota full of injuries again. L10 of 13. 2 games for the Wolves, low 20s. Not exciting, but he's there. Keon Ellis been playing quite a bit for Sacramento. 27 over the last couple games on average, and a 14 L10 puts him firmly in play. I think he can get you mid-30s. Only one game to do it, though. Rashawn Holmes in Washington with Marvin Bagley now out. He's been playing a little bit more, about 25 a game. I think he can get you low 30s on a good night. Evan Fournier's playing again in Detroit. He's up in the mid-20s recently. He can get you 30. If his shot's falling, he can score. With Şengün out in Houston, Jock Landale's been playing in the low 20s minutes recently. That's a lot for him. He can get you in the low 30s. He had a 7-block game the other day, so only one game for Houston, but may want to consider Landale. Daron Sharp in Brooklyn, kind of a backup big man, getting in the low 20s minutes. Guy's a decent player, 106 per minute, a 16 L10, only one game for Brooklyn, but he can get you in the 30s as well. Jovic, I really like this one. He's got a top end a little over 40 at a 17, 2 games for Miami. Bam may miss again this weekend. Even if Bam plays, I think Jovic continues to start with all their other injuries. He's played fairly well, 0.88 points per minute and a big standard deviation, so he'll have his clunkers and he'll have his good games. If he has one of the good ones, you're in great shape with a 40 projection and a 17. Peyton Pritchard's been picking up the slack for Drew Holiday, who's been missing games with an injury. 35 minutes on average, so he's playing starter minutes. 18 L10, top end in the mid 40s for him. So he's one of your highest differences between his top end and his L10 this week, and also 2 games for the Celtics. Holiday is out tonight. Miles McBride in New York. He's played 47 and 44 minutes the last 2 games. I don't see their lineup changing a whole lot. I think 34 is a conservative estimate, the way Tom Thibodeau likes to run his guys into the ground. 19 L10, only one game for the Knicks. McBride coming off one of his better games of the year recently. High 30s projection is definitely in play here. Nick Batum in Philadelphia also playing huge minutes. Obviously not real productive when he's on the floor. Kind of stands in the corner a lot. A good defensive player. Gets a lot of blocks and steals. He has one of those games. Can certainly get you in the low 30s. He's a 19, 2 games for Philly. George Niang in Cleveland. Again, Cleveland banged up. A lot of guys out. He's been playing in the low 30s for minutes. That's a ton for him. If he plays low 30s for minutes, I think his high end is probably in the low 30s in 2 games for Cleveland over the weekend. Zubac, so you can see his average minutes since February 1st are 24, but he's been averaging about 27 in the last couple games, so they're up a little bit. L10 of 20. He obviously is capable of some big games, but he's your 4th option offensively on this team, so 35 for a top end I think is probably about right. 2 games for the Clippers. Kyle Anderson in Minnesota, just with all the injuries. 0.87 a minute. This is another guy that makes his hay on blocks and steals and defensive stats. Higher floor, 18.88. His point totals don't vary a whole lot, so this is a safe play. 2 games for Minnesota over the weekend, and I think if he has a good one, you can get you in the mid-30s. All right, a lot of guys to look at prices on, but you can certainly get some cheap guys here. I think Duarte is a nice option for $1.76. If you want to go real cheap, get a DeLon Wright. Throw him in there. Favorites here, Jovic for $3.21. Seems like a pretty good deal. Miles McBride at $3.35 with all the minutes he's getting. Take a crack at him for sure. Some of the guys are getting a little expensive. Pritchard, $7.16. Obviously, he's had some nice games recently. For the upper part of the mid caps, we're going to start at 22. G.G. Jackson in Memphis finally has his own card. They've started auctioning these. There aren't very many for sale. Obviously, he's really expensive because it just came out. 38 minutes a night on average over the last couple. Memphis just throwing him out there as much as they can. This guy's capable of big games. 26.72 difference between his top end of 48 and his L10 of 22. If you have a G.G. Jackson, I would be playing him or selling him. Trace Jackson-Davis, same thing, another rookie, playing more minutes than normal. 24 over the last couple, way up from the 15 he's averaged since February 1st. 1.26 points per minute. He is on fire right now. Put him over 40. 2 games for the Warriors. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, so another interesting player because of all the injuries in Minnesota. Minutes are up. He was averaging about 25. He's up to about 32 recently. Gives him an upside of somewhere in that 36 range. 2 games over the weekend for Minnesota if you want to try him. Amen Thompson and DeAndre Hunter, 2 interesting guys. Another 2 guys whose minutes are just up from their averages. Amen Thompson may be a lot better than I thought he was. 1.14 points per minute since February 1st. Very good. 24 L10. I've got a 44.42 for a top end on him. Again, he's going to be expensive because he's a rookie, but interesting player to keep an eye on going forward. DeAndre Hunter in Atlanta. He's going from about 26 minutes that he's been averaging up to 34 with all their injuries. Green lights for these Hawks players that are decent, so expect him to put up some decent numbers. 42 almost for a top end on him. Draymond Green, you can always play in Golden State, 1.06 a minute. Very solid. Minutes are good at about 30 recently, so I'd put him in the low 40s. 2 games for Golden State. Santi Aldama's been playing huge minutes for Memphis. 37 a night recently. Had a huge game this past game week. I'd say high end for him is somewhere around 45. 1 game for Memphis. Trey Mann and Trey Jones, the 2 Treys, both 27s, both about 34 minutes, both right around that 40 to 42 mark. Trey Jones actually has 2 games, so he might be the better option of the 2, and he'll be cheaper. CJ McCollum, Kelly Oubre, both playing more than their normal minutes. Expected minutes 34 for McCollum, 36 for Oubre, with Tobias Harris being out for a while now. 2 games for both of them. I expect them in the high 40s. Grayson Allen, you just don't know when he's going to pop. That standard deviation of 14.1 means a lot of games he doesn't pop, but the minutes are there. If he starts making shots, you never know. He could throw you up a 50 or a 60. Top end estimate would be somewhere around 45, but obviously a low floor. 1 game for Phoenix. And then Bogdanovich, just like DeAndre Hunter. Green light, green light, green light for anybody who wants to shoot the ball in Atlanta. 36 minutes. His season average for minutes is probably around 30 since February 1st, 32, and then more recently 36. So he's playing a lot. He can get you in the low 40s. If we're looking at it by lowest prices, Trey Jones, pretty good deal at $265 right now. I like Aldama just from all the minutes he's playing. Prices are coming down on all these players right now at the end of the season, so you can stock up if you want right now for less than $5. All right, quickly running through the blue chips. Ayo Dosunmu at 31, projection in the mid 40s. There are better options. 1 game for the Bulls. Bobby Portis has been playing really well. Delano Banton the same for Portland. I prefer Banton with the 2 games. Simons is questionable tonight. We'll see who plays over the weekend for Portland. It's kind of a crapshoot at this point, but Banton's been getting regular minutes, and he's been producing. Put him in the high 40s for top end. Bradley Beal's been playing well, over a point a minute recently. 33 out of 10, 37 minutes, puts him over 50. Look at anybody that good until we get to Stephen Curry at 36. Real low for him. Standard deviation of 19.1, so he's been all over the place. Real low floor, real high ceiling. Stephen Curry, superstar, Hall of Famer, 2 games for the Warriors. Yeah, I'd have him in at 36 if I had a Curry. Jamal Murray, slightly better than Curry projection-wise, but at a 43. And only 1 game for Denver, not nearly as good a play in my opinion. And then you don't get anybody that good until you get all the way up to Anthony Edwards at 45, 2 games for the Wolves. Edwards has really stepped up. His point per minute for most of the season was somewhere around 1.2. Since February 1st, 1.35, so he's really stepping up. 37 minutes. He's going to get all the minutes for the Wolves. All that he can handle. 63.86 for a top-end upside on him. Definitely have him in my lineup if I had an Edwards for my champions or even a contender with all these good low ads. SGA, 50 L10, projected a little higher than Edwards, just slightly. 2 games for OKC. He's just so steady. Great player. Giannis, all the way up in the high 60s, almost to 70. Only 1 game for the Bucks, but he's back. And then Jokic at 54, projected high 70s, but only 1 game for Denver. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate you all. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I will see you back here soon.